Hey guys, what is up? We have good news. Really exciting news, speculative news, and it deals all with Superman. I think we all know about it. The new Superman sequel, which is not going to technically be a true Superman sequel, but be a part of the Superman saga, is going to be called Man of Tomorrow. And what was cool about this announcement was that they released comic art. And James Gunn, David Cornsweet, and Nicholas Hoult all dropped comic art, and we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get into all the speculative things about it, and let me share with you guys, because I just thought this stuff was really, really cool, and we'll get into it. So we got the first photo, which was James Gunn's photo, which is Jim Lee artwork, which tells us a couple things. Now, I appreciate DC hype. I think he jumped the gun on some things, but we will talk about everything that everyone's talking about, the possibilities of what this film could be. But I do think he was making some definitive statements that maybe have no real connection, but we'll talk about it. We're going to get into it. Because first, I just want to look at the art. Because what does this tell us? This tells us that we're going to get Lex Luthor in his super suit. I couldn't be more excited about that. That is something I definitely am wanting to see. I'm glad now seeing the first film. We didn't get it in the first film. But in this first photo, it seems, the suggestion is that there's maybe a little bit of teamwork and maybe even helping each other out. So the possibility of Superman and Lex Luthor working together, which is pretty interesting. Then you got the next photo, them being in battle together. Jorge Jimenez, which honestly, between Dan Mora and Jorge Jimenez, I think Jorge Jimenez might be my favorite current artist at the time. I just love his art. I love it. I think it needs to be a part of like a cartoon television series or something. I mean, we need to see unique looks like that, and I love his art. I really, really love his art. But there's that, and that was David Cornsweet that shared that one. And then you have Nicholas Holtz. And Nicholas Holtz's artist was Mitch Gerald's, and that one looks really good as well. I'm kind of surprised they didn't give one to Dan Mora, but I think Dan Mora probably has some art ready, for this. But this one shows them fighting. Now, here's my thing. I don't know if we can look at this art and say definitively anything, right? I don't know if we can look at, for example, Jim Lee's art and see Superman holding the screwdriver and then go, okay, well, they're clearly going to work together and Superman's going to help him build the suit. I don't know if we can clearly say that. I think that there's a possibility that James Gunn told them, hey, give me artwork with Lex Luthor and Superman, and you can put your own little flavor to it. You can have them against each other or allied to each other. And this is what the artist decided to do. I don't know if we can give declarative statements of anything really about what the artwork is trying to tell us besides the fact that Lex Luthor is definitely wearing his armor, and to be honest with you, I do think not only are they going to fight each other, they're going to fight each other. Now, if that's the beginning of the film or later in the film, they will fight each other. But I also think it's clear that they're probably going to work together. But any further details than that, I don't think we would really know the truth on. Now, I'm going to look at DCU Hype Guy. I'm going to look at his post real quick just to kind of hit on a couple things that he talks about, and we'll just throw out the idea if those things are true or not. We mentioned the whole building his armor war suit. I mean, possibly, who knows? I don't think they really gave us a good indication of that, but I mean, Superman's holding a screwdriver, so maybe they do work together to build something for Lex that would help protect him. We'll have to see. I think he was given the hint at Brainiac. A lot of people are thinking Brainiac. That Brainiac's going to come in and be the big bad that they're going to have to face against. Now, I have my own personal theory, and it's really comes based off the title. Which really comes down to the idea of the Man of Tomorrow. Who is the Man of Tomorrow? Now, even though they're not declaring this a true Superman movie, I think Man of Tomorrow is a question. It's not necessarily a statement. But I think the statement would be the message of the movie, the end of the movie. And I do think Superman, our guy Superman, will be the Man of Tomorrow. But I do think it opens the door for many things. Who do we know in the DC universe that, James Gunn has talked about how corporations will be a big deal in the MCU. It's clearly something he's been thinking about. So you have Luthor Corp, which I think needs to be turned to LexCorp, but whatever. You have Luthor Corp. You have Wayne Tech, which we have not seen yet. You have, Maxwell Lord's company. Is it Tech Lord? You have Maxwell Lord's company. So you got those three men right here. You could argue that those three men are the Man of Tomorrow. You could also talk about how there's new heroes coming in. Someone like a Superman. Someone like a Jon Stewart could be the Man of Tomorrow. Mr. Terrific is a super genius. He is at the level, if not smarter, than Lex Luthor. It's a little bit of mix. I think it's funner. It's more fun if Lex Luthor's smarter because he's evil most of the time. It makes it more of a rival. But you got Mr. Terrific in the running for that. Hey guys, Future Me here. Real quick information that just came out, as recording this a little bit of time ago. The Man of Tomorrow movie, supposedly, they're hinting at, this is a rumor, this is coming from Nexus Point News, but it does seem like that we're going to have Supergirl, Peacemaker, and Lobo inside this film, and they're talking about the rumor of it being a Brainiac or Authority, but I think that is definitely harder on the rumor possibility. But there is a leak that's saying that Millie Alcock, Supergirl, Jason Momoa's Lobo, and John Cena's Peacemaker will be in this film. So we'll have to see what happens, but I just wanted to add that, I think it still fits with the theories that I have, but I could see something like a Lobo only really being a part of the beginning. I think a couple videos ago with the Peacemaker review I did, I mentioned, because of Craft Toys was a spoiler, a little kind of Easter egg in the Peacemaker episode 1, that leads to Toyman. And I was joking about how, it'd be really great for a Superman sequel to open up with the beginning, having a fight with like Toyman, a character that you're not going to have as the main villain of your movie, but to go ahead and add a little bit of an action scene to your film could be a lot of fun. I could see Jason Momoa popping up in the beginning of this film as like a fun action scene before you really open up to what the story's about and everything else. But, if they're fighting Brainiac, they're going to need all hands on deck. So maybe Lex Luthor has enough money to pay the big man to help fight against the onslaught that is Brainiac. But we'll have to see. But it is interesting having Peacemaker and Lobo and Supergirl. We'll have to see what they have in store. But anyway, back to old me. So who do we have? We have Superman. We have Lex Luthor. We have Mr. Terrific. We have Jon Stewart. We have Maxwell Lord. We have Bruce Wayne as possible Man of Tomorrow. Now, do I think we're going to see Bruce Wayne in this movie? I'm not sure. I would love it. And, he was James Gunn when we were on the Peacemaker podcast, where they're going over the Peacemaker show. He did mention that he was watching 1923. And there might be a reason there. There might be a reason there. You know, it seems that they are starting to have some sort of discussions with Batman. And for anybody, and this will be the transition to another thing we need to talk about this movie. For anybody that said they're not going to do casting and let the scripts done, I think James Gunn lives in a rules for thee and not for me. Because guess what they're doing with this film? They've greenlit a film where the script's not done yet. Man of Tomorrow's script is not done. The treatment's done. The treatment's done. And, you know, I am impressed with James Gunn's ability to write. And I do have concerns with this a little bit. But it is really impressive, James Gunn's ability to sit down and just write and get it done. And, you know, maybe the script's more, you know, accomplished than what we think. But here's the thing that I'm concerned with. If it's rules for thee but not for me, which is kind of what it seems like James Gunn's kind of leaning into. Rules for thee and not for me. You know, who judges your scripts? Who's looking at your script to make sure it's perfect? You know? He's talked about other people's scripts where he sent it back because it just didn't seem right. But then your script, you got your treatment for it, which I know is huge. It's like a 60-page treatment. But who's to say that certain things don't need to be changed? Now, you know, he is someone who could be put in a situation kind of like what Marvel puts their people through. And I would feel a little bit more comfortable with that because, honestly, he's been in that kind of situation for Marvel. You know, people don't realize that one of the successes of Marvel is the fact that people like James Gunn and Joss Whedon were going to other people's films and treating their scripts, working on their scripts, making sure their scripts were good and fleshed out as they were doing their own movies. That's a huge reason why everything felt so cohesive at the end. You know, people give Kevin Feige so much credit, as they should. But a lot of that credit should also be afforded to people that a lot of people don't like to talk about anymore, like Joss Whedon. You know, there's a lot of credit that should be afforded to those people. I think Jon Favreau participated in some of those, jumping in and helping write scripts as well. Working on doing touch-ups on different people's movies. Which means you have to go on the fly and be adaptive and keep up. And so, there's no doubt in my mind, anybody could do this would be James Gunn. But I will say it does make you wonder if we're going to have like a George Lucas scenario where no one is willing to say something's bad for James Gunn. You know, James Gunn is able to work on everyone else's script, help everyone else's script, but who's helping James Gunn's scripts? And greenlighting something and promising it'll come out this soon, it does kind of make you kind of wonder. But maybe he really has touched gold and he's touched something really great, and he knows he has something that maybe it was harder for him to get beforehand with the original Superman script. So it does make you wonder. It does make you wonder. But overall, I'm excited about it. So what have we touched on? We touched on the fact that I think the title of the movie is going to be the question of the movie of who the Man of Tomorrow is, which means I think we're going to see more characters than we even realize. There's a lot of people that think it's Brainiac. Nothing's really came out and said that, but there has been, and I don't have it saved here, but there has been leaked storyboards of the original Superman stuff that tease Brainiac. So, yeah, that could definitely be a possibility. The second thing, his writing and the fact that he's coming out in 2027 is crazy. July 9th, 2027. The man is a writing madman. I would love to really, he's talked about writing, but really get into his philosophy when it comes to writing, I think would be very interesting. Because here's the crazy part. We've been waiting on Batman 2, and Batman Part 2 was supposed to come out the same time as this Superman film. Batman Part 2 was supposed to come out the fall of this year. Okay? And we all know it's not. We all know it's not. And are we getting close? Yes, we're getting close, but closer for it being filmed. This is what we're looking at. Now, they're showing Brave and the Bold right here for June 30th. I don't think you can hold that. I think that person's kind of making a statement that that's like a definitive thing. I don't think that's a definitive thing. I could actually argue that that's too close. If we are going to do two different Batman, I have to say that might actually be too close. That might be too close to Batman Part 2. I could see that being Sergeant Rock. But look at what we got, guys. In early 2026, we're getting the Lantern series. In the summer of 2026, we're getting Supergirl. September 11th, which I still think it'll be a mistake if we are doing two different Batman. I think it would be a mistake if we do not show Batman in this movie. I think Batman needs to appear in this movie, which would open the door for him to appear in Man of Tomorrow, which would come out July 9th, 2027. But the fact that James Gunn, and this is my message to the merger bros, okay? For people who want the merger to happen. Besides the fact that the character that Matt Reeves has made with Pattinson just doesn't make sense in the world of Superman. It just doesn't. You could see Pattinson do some cool stuff and do some cool action scenes, but you're not going to see... I ain't gonna lie, I'm going to be a little checked out if we get Pattinson in the Superman movie, just because to see him do what Mr. Terrific did, I think doesn't make sense for both franchises. And the Batman of the DC Universe needs to do cooler things than what Mr. Terrific stole the show for Superman. Stole the show. But if you're going to have him, Pattinson, do something more spectacular than what Mr. Terrific did, I think you're taking me out of what Matt Reeves has made, and you're taking me out for what James Gunn has done. I'm not going to be totally against it, but I am not a merger bro. I'm just going to be honest. If you are, that's cool. I am not a merger bro. I do not want those to come together. But here's another reason I'm not a merger bro. James Gunn has written 2 shows. He has written 2 films. Or he's about to finish writing this film, clearly. They're already greenlight the date to film the movie. Before Matt Reeves has done his second. Now, I know he's gone through things, whatever those things are. But we need more from a DCU Batman. Now, what's funny is, I truly do believe that, I'm not sure what kind of writer, Matt Reeves is. I know that he works really hard on his first draft and basically makes his first draft completely perfect. I guess maybe if you had to describe him as something, maybe he is an architect, instead of a gardener, letting the story just flow. Like Zach Kreger. If you ever listen to Zach Kreger, he kind of sounds like a gardener and who comes kind of back in and clips certain things and chops off certain limbs and kind of makes it a tighter script at the end. I'm guessing that's probably what James Gunn is as well in some kind of way. Not necessarily, though, because he talked about how he does his treatment. So maybe not necessarily. He's a faster builder. But Matt Reeves, I know that his Batman movies may have a higher echelon quality to them. than even our DCU Batman movies that might be separate. But at least I know that our DCU Batman movies are going to come out in a more rapider pace. Because if Matt Reeves is going to continue to do his films, and I hope he does, I'm one of those people where I understand that maybe logically it may not work to have two Batman. But for me, I like there's like a real world kind of Batman, a realistic Batman, and then there's a fantastical Batman. I kind of dig that. And, we'll just have to see, but, I just don't, I don't want to wait till 2032 for a Batman Part 3. I'm just going to be honest. I don't want to wait for that. I want Batman in this universe sooner than later. I am going to be disappointed. If I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest, guys. I am going to be disappointed if Batman is not a part of Clayface at the very end. I don't think Batman needs to be a part of the whole movie. I do not. But if Batman doesn't show up, doesn't have to have lines, doesn't have to say anything, but if Batman doesn't show up in some kind of way in September 11th of 2026, I'm going to be disappointed. I'm going to be disappointed. He doesn't necessarily have to be there for Man of Tomorrow, but I think he does need to be there for Clayface. Because we do desperately need to build this world. And I don't know if there's contract issues with this. I don't believe there are. But we need a Batman in this world. So if it's Robert Pattinson or if it's another Batman who I'm hoping like a Brendan Sklenar, because I want a manly man Batman. I've noticed this, by the way. A lot of the people that have issues with Brendan Sklenar on X, which we got some weird fellas on X, but a lot of the issues people have with the Brendan Sklenar type actor for Batman is because they feel like he's too manly. To me, if you're going to cast Batman, it needs to be two things. You need to come from two different sides of the angle. You either need to get someone who looks like they're from like a royal family, or you need to get like someone who looks like a rugged cowboy. And we've gotten the royal family approach, for Batman quite a lot. I'm ready for a rugged Western. I'm ready for a manly man Batman. All right? I'm ready for someone with a little hair on his chest, okay? All right? I need a tough man for Batman, and so that's why I'm a big Brendan Sklenar fan. But, I mean, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder what's heading for us. But, guys, what about you? Are you excited for this announcement? What are you thinking? Who do you think the villains are going to be? Who do you think we're going to see in the movie? Do you think we're going to have the old cast? Do you think we're going to have the new cast? I think you're going to have, like I said, I think you're going to have Lex Luthor and Superman as the main leads of the film. But I do think the question of the Man of Tomorrow is going to be extremely important. And I do think that comes from the idea of finances, genius, so finances, genius, power, true power, heroism, and just who can be the man on top? Who is the man to lead the future? Is it someone like Batman? Is it someone like Superman? Is it someone like Lex Luthor? Is it someone like Jon Stewart, Green Lantern? Who is going to lead the world into the future? And I think at the end of the movie, we're all going to know what the answer is going to be. I think we all know who that's going to be. But, I'll say this. Another thing to think about. When Josh Horowitz was interviewing James Gunn, Josh Horowitz brought up a World's Finest film. And James Gunn said no. But you could tell that James Gunn was conflicted in his no. You could tell it. You could tell that he was conflicted in his no. And I think the reason he was conflicted is because we are going to see Batman in this movie. But you can't call it a world's finest movie because there's going to be other people involved. You're going to have a Green Lantern involved. You're going to have a Lex Luthor involved. And Superman and Lex Luthor are probably going to be the true leads of the film. So you can't really call it a world's finest. And I think that's how he's getting away from that. But that's also why he's not calling it a Superman film. Because why is this? It's a part of the Superman saga, but you're not calling it a Superman sequel? Why is that? It's because there's more characters involved than just Lex Luthor and Superman. If it was just Lex Luthor and Superman, there'd be no reason not to call it a Superman 2 sequel. So that's my theory. I'm sticking to it. I think that we will have the cast of Batman sooner than we think. Just my thought. Just my thought. But what about you guys? Do you think I am terribly wrong? Do you think I am reaching for the stars and I'm just totally out of whack? Let me know in the comments down below. And guys, whatever you're doing, wherever you're going, I hope you're having a good one. Peace.